Welcome back to The Explainer. So, if you've been glued to the 2026 World Cup lately, I'm betting you've probably screamed at your TV at least once, wondering why on earth the VAR system seems completely, hopelessly broken. Well, what if I told you it's actually not a glitch? What if it's a deliberate FIFA policy? Today, we're going to investigate the World Cup VAR crisis. We're diving deep into how a completely intentional rule change is quietly breaking the system and leaving players, legends, and fans just absolutely stunned. Okay, let's dive into this. To really understand this crisis, we need to go back to the inciting incident. Picture this. The date is June 23rd, 2026. We're exactly 67 minutes into a massive Group L clash at Boston Stadium. It's England versus Ghana. The game is locked in this incredibly tense, goalless draw, and you can literally feel the pressure mounting with every single tick of the clock. Now, context is absolutely everything here. Leading right up to that moment, England was utterly dominant. I mean, they were holding 79% of the possession. But even with the ball for practically the entire game, they just couldn't break through. Ghana had set up this amazingly disciplined, stubborn yellow wall of defenders. So England is just knocking on the door over and over and over again, but it won't budge. And honestly, that overwhelming dominance makes the sudden shock of what happens next feel so much more jarring. Let's actually walk through the exact sequence that blew this game wide open. After 67 minutes of relentless English pressure, the momentum suddenly flips. Ghana's substitute, Prince Kwabena Adu, breaks right through the England defense. It's a clean breakaway, and he is racing one-on-one toward England's goalkeeper Jordan Pickford. But just as Adu enters the penalty area, England defender Ezri Konsa launches this desperate, completely airborne recovery challenge from behind. It's this spectacular lunging attempt to stop a near-certain goal. Adu goes down hard, and then crickets. Literally nothing. The game just moves on. A full minute goes by, and VAR stays completely silent. Which brings us to the million-dollar question, right? Where was VAR? Look, to the naked eye, in real time, it was a massive collision. The Honda referee, said Martinez, waved play on immediately. And hey, that happens in a fast-paced game. But this is exactly why the VAR system was invented in the first place. The replays showed a totally different story. Konsa's feet were completely off the ground when he jumped in. He caught Adu right on the knee, and crucially, he didn't make an ounce of contact with the ball, not a single touch. And yet the VAR booth conspicuously chose not to intervene. They didn't even send the ref to the monitor. Unsurprisingly, that silence from the booth sparked an absolute chorus of outrage from football legends. Watching this whole thing unfold on BBC One, Wayne Rooney was just unequivocal. He flat out said it was a clear penalty, pointing out the massive risk Konsa took. You know, if your feet are off the floor, you come flying in and you only get the man and miss the ball, that's a foul. Micah Richards was right there alongside Rooney, echoing the exact same sentiment, just astounded and noting that England were incredibly lucky to get away with it. And this brilliantly illustrates that it wasn't just former players who were baffled. The referees themselves were stunned. Darren Cann, who was actually the assistant referee for the 2010 World Cup final, so he knows a thing or two, delivered a really damning assessment. He pointed out that Konsa made zero contact with the ball, he was airborne and totally out of control. To a veteran official like Cann, it was a penalty kick all day long. And former Premier League referee Mark Halsey joined right in, explicitly saying England was extremely lucky to escape a major punishment. Naturally, the manager on the losing end of all this had a few thoughts. In the post-match press conference, Ghana's 73-year-old manager, Carlos Queiroz, was absolutely fuming. But instead of just shouting, he went with some biting sarcasm to voice his total disbelief. He literally asked reporters if VAR was still working, joking that maybe the officials went for a coffee break or, a quick vacation during that critical play. But behind that tasteful humor, there was a very real, very deep sense of injustice. Queiroz insisted it was a blatant penalty and a red card, and openly wondered if he was the only person in the entire stadium who actually saw it clearly. So what does this all mean? What is the actual motive behind this baffling non-call? Well, it doesn't make any sense until you look at the new rules. FIFA's head of referees, Collina, has quietly rolled out a brand new policy just for this tournament. It's called a higher threshold for on-field challenges. The whole goal here is to reduce match fragmentation. They basically want the game to flow more smoothly. So to make that happen, referees have been explicitly told to let more tackles go. As referee analyst Christina Unkel explained, FIFA wants the clear and obvious standard to be like 110% before VAR steps in. They don't want to analyze contact under a microscope anymore. They're actively trying to avoid the constant clips and debates. So the crucial point is the massive rift in consistency that this policy has suddenly created. Think about it. If you take that exact same lunging tackle by Ezri Konsa and put it in a domestic league like the Premier League or Serie A, that is a stonewall penalty and VAR intervenes every single time, no question. But here at the 2026 World Cup, under this new higher threshold mandate, the call is just play on and VAR stays totally silent. You've got the exact same sport, the exact same players, but completely different interpretations of a fundamental rule just based on what tournament they happen to be playing in. But here's the thing, this isn't just an isolated incident in one England-Ghana match. What we're really looking at is a system under severe strain. If we zoom out from that one play, we start to see a macro-level contagion of chaos across the whole tournament. By trying to fix the flow of the game, FIFA has kind of inadvertently put the entire officiating system under immense pressure. This higher threshold has essentially created an environment where players and fans have no earthly idea what to expect from one game to the next. And we are seeing the system crack on multiple fronts. For example, the authority of VAR was actually just expanded to cover mistaken identity, which is a brand new change that ended up saving Tim Ream in the USA versus Paraguay match. Then, in the Switzerland versus Qatar game, the system reportedly had a massive technical fault where offside images couldn't even be generated. Officials were literally flying blind out there. The frustration has boiled over so much that Algeria went ahead and filed a formal official complaint to FIFA regarding the refereeing after they lost to Argentina. The lack of faith in the officiating is just growing by the day. And crazy enough, this inconsistency even bleeds into completely different rules, like the controversial new mouth covering ban. Now, this rule was brought in specifically to stop players from hiding abusive language from the cameras, but look at how wildly inconsistently it's being enforced. Paraguay's Miguel Almiron got sent off with a red card for this exact offense. But then, England's Jude Bellingham escaped completely unpunished for a very similar gesture against Ghana, all because the officials subjectively decided his covered mouth chat was just a friendly conversation. Once again, we're seeing entirely different standards applied to different teams on the exact same world stage. Which brings us to the ultimate, really stark philosophical question at the heart of this explainer. FIFA's head of referees told officials to let more tackles go and ordered VAR to stay silent just to keep the game moving. The intention was to stop the debates, right? But the actual result is this landscape of total chaos and inconsistency that leaves everyone second-guessing the very rules of the sport. So you really have to ask yourself, by sacrificing the meticulous accuracy of VAR for the sake of match flow and fewer interruptions, is this truly a better, faster game, or is it simply a broken one? Thank you so much for joining me as we unpack this unfolding World Cup mystery. Keep watching, keep questioning, and I'll see you in the next explainer.